Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be testing out the new Danessa Myricks Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette for eyes, brows, face, and lips. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright, so this is the new Danessa Myricks Groundwork Defining Neutrals full face palette. So this retails for $65 US or 88 Canadian. This does have a 12-month shelf life and is made in China. The box just looks like this. Very, very pretty. You can see it's just this very bronzy textured box. Looks very beautiful. The packaging feels heavy. Opening up the palette, the outer packaging is super beautiful. It's got like this faux worn leather effect, a lot like the ABH Rose Metals palette from last year. And it's got this raised metal plate here. I feel like this is part of what's making this palette so expensive because this packaging is stunning. Opening this up, you do get a little clear piece right here. And here are all the shades, and you also do get a mirror on this side. So there are 10 shades in total. These larger pans are their velvet pomades, and these little tiny pans are the matching setting powders. So this is very clearly an innovative product. This is definitely geared a little bit more toward makeup artists, which I feel a lot of Danessa Myricks brand is. She is definitely a pro makeup artist brand. And I feel like in general, while she does kind of stick to the trends a little bit, I feel that she does also create different innovative products. And I think she's definitely done that. Is this another neutral palette? Yes. Did I just review an all neutral matte palette yesterday? Yes. But this one, with the addition of the pomades in here, really goes toward making this unique and different. So I am going to be using this all over the face with the exception of my lips. I just don't use browns on lips, so I'm not going to do that, but all the rest of my face I will. One thing I wanted to say really quickly, and I will pop up photos, is the pomade in this shade here and this darker one, when I first opened this palette, they had these little fibers in them, and I don't think that's supposed to be there. I'll pop up a photo. I do not think that is supposed to be the case whatsoever, so I am not going to touch those two pomades. All of the others appear to be perfectly fine, but I think I'm just going to stick with the powders on those shades. Again, those are the only two shades that have those, and I don't think that is supposed to be the case. I don't know if that's just from factory. I don't know, but I just wanted to say that. I will also say the magnet is really not very strong when closing this, so if you do get this one, don't loosely grab it by the lid because it's just going to flop open. I find there are a lot of other palettes I have that don't quite do that, so I just wanted to mention that. This is a fairly bulky palette, but the packaging is still beautiful. So this palette describes itself as a multi-use talc-free palette with velvety pomades and coordinating oil-absorbing shaping powders that easily define eyes, brows, cheeks, and lips. This does contain Upsolite, which controls oil and smooths texture while setting to ensure long wear. So I believe her cream blushes also contain that Upsolite product. So the pomades in here are 1.8 grams each, and the Shape and Fix powders are 0.8 grams. And that is another thing I wanted to point out before we get into this, is that it seems strange to me that the pomades are the bigger of the two. I would honestly prefer to see the powders be a little bit bigger, but that's just my own preferences. So let's start with the eyes. I do have my eye primer on. I've got foundation, concealer, some powder, and lips. That's all I have done right now. So as mentioned, I am going to start with the powders, and I am going to take the shade Mirage, which is this like perfect transition for me, but again, I'm skipping out on the pomade, and I'm going to go into just the powder. The powders are really kind of hard to get brushed into because they're so tiny. They're about the size of the powders in the Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes. That's what the size of these powders reminds me of, which strikes me that that'll be a little bit difficult to use all over the face. I would definitely rather use a powder bronzer instead of a pomade bronzer, but we're going to see about that. So I'm just blending this shade into the crease as a transition. I haven't tried any eyeshadow products from Danessa Myricks in the past, so I don't know what to expect with these. This is available now on Sephora and I believe on the Danessa Myricks website as well. I should also mention that each pan has this little indent here, so you can actually take these out. You can depot everything, which I do think is really nice. I'm gonna go now into Desert, and I am going to dip into the pomade for this one. I want to see how those pomades blend out as eyeshadows. Dipping my finger into them, they are very, very smooth. They feel very much like a cream. They remind me of the Natasha Denona cream to powder formula, but a little bit smoother. Okay, this is actually blending out really, really well as an eyeshadow. I'm really liking the pomades in this way. I wasn't sure, but I do seem to like that. So they do kind of have that cream to powder effect on the eyes. I'm going to grab a little bit more of a detailed brush, and I'm going to go in to Harvest, and I want to use this one to just really deepen that outer corner. See how that works? And I'm just dipping in very lightly because these look very, very deep in the pan. Okay, I'm really loving how that's blending. I'm just gonna grab a bigger fluffy brush just to blend those edges. Okay, now I'm gonna grab a flat shader brush, and I think I'm gonna go into Sandstone right here, and I'm gonna use the pomade as well. That's pretty. I think I might want to set this one though. Okay, I don't know if I like that one as much on the lid. These all have really good pigment, but something about this one directly on the lid almost looks like, it looks like foundation that's been pilling. I don't like that. I'm gonna flip my brush over, and I'm gonna dip into the powder. That looks a little bit better, but I feel like my lid still ends up looking pretty textured. Yeah, the same thing's happening on this eye. That pomade is not looking nice at all. Okay, going in with powder to kind of make it better. I shouldn't have used the pomade on this side. So I did really, really hate this particular pomade all over the lid. So I just took it off and I just went in with the powder. And now I'm pretty content. I actually ended up with a very similar look to one of the looks I did with the Patrick Top palette. So I'm pretty content with this. I'm going to quickly pop on some mascara, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to do my brows. I'm going to start a little bit of a contour, and then we'll talk about my final thoughts. All right, so I did put on mascara, and then I remembered I wanted to actually use the black to sort of tight line. So I'm going to go back and do that after my mascara dries. But for now, let's go into the brows. So I don't need a lot when it necessarily comes to my brows, and my brows are a little bit darker than my hair. One thing I wanted to note about these is that they come across as a lot darker in the pan than they actually are. So I think I'm going to use the shade Sculpted for my brows. So I think that's a pretty good match. If I don't like it, I'll just use something else. But again, I don't actually use a ton in my brows to begin with. I am going to use the pomade, and then I think I might go in with the powder after. I do typically love using a powder in my brows. I do find it looks a lot more natural. But I am going in with the pomade first. And I've already brushed up my brows. And okay, that shade is looking pretty good. I typically do use like a soft brown or a taupe. On one hand, I want to say this palette would be great for traveling, but on the other hand, it is a bit heavy. However, you do have everything you need in here. That was perfect for my brows. I've actually been on like an unofficial mission to use up all of my brow pencils just because I don't feel the need to keep a lot of them on hand. So I was initially just going to use them up and then just keep one on hand at all times. Honestly, I feel like if I could use them all up, I would just use this for my brows because this looks nice. These pomades are really, really soft as well. I'm not somebody who ever got into the ABH pomade, but I know that was pretty popular. I'm just brushing that through really quickly. I like how that looks. I accidentally made my one brow look a little bit more blocky, so I just need to match this one. I think I might want to add a little bit of the powder as well, just to set like it suggests, and then I will just use my brow gel as well. I'm loving this so far as for my brows. I really am. I can definitely see myself reaching for this a lot. Even the way the eyeshadow turned out, aside from that one pomade that didn't work on my lids, I really, really like how simple this is, and it's actually pretty user-friendly. I do think so far that it is geared toward maybe more geared toward makeup artists, but I'm finding it to be very, very user-friendly. Now I want to do a little bit of bronze and contour. Given that I'm not going to touch the pomade in Mirage, and that is the one I want to use for my bronzer, I think I'm going to use Chiseled to sculpt. And these are a little smaller than I would like for doing face makeup, but I'm going in with the BK Beauty 107 and I just gave it a little pinch and it did fit into the pomade pretty well. I'm definitely not going to get that lucky with the powder, but that's okay. All right, let's go in. Just give it a little bit of a sculpt. Ooh, okay, that's actually really, really nice. I have so much respect for Danessa Myricks as a makeup artist. I just find she always seems very, very upbeat whenever I watch videos of her and her doing makeup. I love the way she does makeup, but I just really think she's such a creative genius, you know? Aside from the part about finding these weird fibers in some of my shades, I just think she's such a creative genius and I just really respect her artistry. And while I agree that you can use a lot of different palettes for eyes and different things like that, you totally can, but there is something innovative about these pomades and powders together to be used as an all-over face product, and I just think it's so creative. And I just love the light contour that I got from that. I do think that the name Groundwork really is a good description of this palette, because I feel like from here I can go in and add any other products, blush, everything else that I want. And I've just used this one palette to do my eyes, my brows, and my contour, and I've used a mix of mediums between the powders and the pomades, and there is something unique about that. I think this might be great if you're in a pinch and you're just looking to do something really, really quickly. If you need to do your makeup in 5 minutes, maybe you just want to throw on foundation and concealer, throw something in the crease, do your brows, maybe add a little bit of sculpting contour to the face, and then throw on some blush, you're done. I mean, look at this. And you could totally use some of these pomades on the lips, but I just think this really is a do-it-all palette. So I'm really into this. I'm just gonna grab a Fox 3 from Sigma and Brianna Fox. I'm gonna go into the black pomade, and I wanna try to add a little teeny tiny bit of a tight line situation. I'm just stamping it for the inner portion. I'm actually gonna grab the brush I used for my brows. That was so easy and simple. Okay, same thing on this side. Just stamping along the lash line. So I am really, really happy with how this looks. I'm gonna just grab a little bit of my Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Rosé and Blush Cream Blush. This one is not for the faint of heart. So I just stamped into the product and now I'm going to tap it off on my hand because it is so much, and then I'm just going to tap a little bit on the cheeks. And this is the blush that also has her special Upsolite technology. All right, so here is the final look. I think I'm pretty happy overall. So let's chat about this palette. So first off, I'm gonna say I think the name of the palette, Groundwork, is very, very accurate because I think it does lay the base, or the groundwork, if you will, for other things that you might do with your makeup. So I could easily use a lot of these shades as transitions. I can use these to build a base for an eyeshadow. I can use them just as eyeshadow like I did today, or I can even use them as a base toward some more colorful options. Immediately, I'm thinking of the new ABH Fall Romance palette that's coming out. I have ordered that, but it does look like it's going to be too dark for me, quite frankly. And I'm thinking that I may need some better transitions, and I can see myself grabbing for this just to kind of define the eyes. I mean, you could do that with any matte palette, but I can see myself grabbing for this. I loved this for the brows. It made filling my brows so quick and easy, and I like how they look. Again, the eyes were easy to do. The pomades blended out surprisingly easy on the lids. As a contour, I was very, very pleased with how the shade Chiseled looked. I just really, really like it overall. I think if you're somebody who likes a good nose contour, maybe you do the whole lip contour thing, I don't do either of those, but I think if you're somebody who does, you may really like this. Another thing I could see people doing is maybe doing the nose contour and then using this as sort of the highlight down the center. I can see people doing that. This really is an all-encompassing palette for a full face of makeup. I think this is great, like I mentioned, if you want to do like 5-minute makeup and use minimal products. Grabbing this palette, you've got eyeshadow, contour, brows, all in one. Super, super simple. I can see this being fabulous if you're a makeup artist because again, you get all those options and you get all of these different tones. So I can see this being helpful for such a range of people. I do think makeup artists are the main target audience for this, but I think also the target audience is somebody who wants to use minimal makeup, you know, foundation, concealer, powder, and then one palette to do everything else. I think this could be really, really great. Again, I love the packaging. I think it's really beautiful. I am still disappointed about the fibers in these two. It might not be cause for alarm, but it is a little bit off-putting. I am disappointed because I would have liked to use this shade as a bronzer, but I didn't want to do so. This pomade didn't work all over my lids, but the powder did kind of serve its purpose, and I think the pomade would perhaps serve a purpose elsewhere. I just don't know where yet. The rest of these are going to work out great. This brown, this black. It made a really, really beautiful liner, and I love that the powders can set it. I do still think it's a little weird that the pomades are large and the powders are small, but that would be my only critique. I know the powders are supposed to set the pomades, but at the same time, you really can't get a large brush in here at all. I think I mentioned these little notches here, so if you want to get in, you can easily flip these out and depot them, move them around if you wanted to do that, but otherwise, I think this is so handy. I think it's very much in line with Danessa Myricks' brand in general. She does create very innovative products. If I had to think of one of the most innovative, unique mainstream brands, I would probably give it to Danessa Myricks because a lot of the products she comes out with are different than the other things that are out there. So I really have to say that about that, and I really do appreciate her artistry. I really respect her as an artist. Overall, I really like this. It will depend how these wear throughout the day. I will either update you in a pinned comment or I will let you know at the end of the month when I'm adding this one to speed reviews. I don't know if this should be included in eyeshadow palettes or face palettes for the year. I'm probably going to put it in face, but this is actually a great palette. I admit to being fully intimidated by this when it was coming in today. I was kind of in my head a little bit like, should I have ordered that? I don't know. Like, it very much piqued my curiosity and that's why I ordered it right away. But then I was kind of in my head like, should I have ordered that? I don't know how to use that. What if it's difficult to use? But in all honesty, it isn't. It's actually pretty great, and I don't think it requires much of a learning curve to use like I thought it would. So I'm overall pretty impressed. I will, of course, leave a pinned comment down below to let you know the response I get from Sephora, because that whole thing with the fibers is a little bit alarming. But reading reviews on Sephora, I haven't heard anybody else say the same thing, so maybe this was a one-off. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you ordering this one? Are you thinking of ordering this one? Let me know your thoughts. I love hearing from you guys so, so much. I do want to mention we are in the throes of holiday launches right now, so there is a lot coming out all at once. So if there is anything coming out that you would like to see me review, also let me know that in the comments, because I am so happy to do that if there is curiosity for a specific product. But that is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!